Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Creators Connect series. My name is Luca, but you can call me that camera guy. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for your love and support. I truly appreciate it. And if you are new here, please consider subscribing if you like this video. Now in today's episode of the show, we're joined by yet another illustrator, yet another artist, and his name is Alvin. He's based out of Harare, Zimbabwe. In the show, Alvin walks us through the process of turning creativity and art into something that was just a hobby and developing it, growing it into something that has become a brand that is Midnight Art by AM. Just like everyone else I've had on the show, Alvin does tell us how practically impossible it is to find a balance between work life and your artistic life. But we'll discuss that a little bit and try and figure out a way to navigate through that. So just sit back, relax, and let's connect with Alvin. Okay, so again, like I said, thank you so much, Alvin, for being here. Something that I truly appreciate, bro, to have you here, sitting down and chatting with me. I think I saw your work on Instagram, and I was like, wow, this guy's truly talented. He's onto something. I'd be honored to pick his brain, ask him a couple things about creativity, and here we are today. So thank you once again for being here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay,
Thanks for
so
having me.
yeah, my first question is, what's your long time vision for Midnight Art as a brand? Where do you want to see it go, and how do you want to see it grow?
All right. So long term would be short term would be trying to conquer Zimbabwe, if I were to put it that way.
Okay.
Make myself make myself a recognizable brand in Zimbabwe. As a recognizable artist, right? Then long term would be taking this, regional then international, just trying to make myself be known out there, just putting my name out there, putting my artwork out there, just letting people relate to my art.
Okay, and I mean, those are fair and reasonable ambitions. I think I've got two questions that build out of what you've just said. I mean, the first one is, you said short term you want to be a recognized, creative and an artist in Zimbabwe. But when you look at the Zimbabwean creative space and the creative community currently, what do you see that it's lacking that you see in creative communities outside Zimbabwe? What do you think, if you could change one thing within the Zimbabwean creative community, what would that
be? Okay, so that's rather big, but I think art is not exactly a basic commodity.
Yeah.
Art is definitely a luxury. So for the people of Zimbabwe to really appreciate the luxury that art is, they would need to take care of a lot of basic things before they would then start realizing.
So deep. That is so deep, right?
Yeah. So it's not something that I would say could be easily fixed without having to go back to the root cause of, basically what's going wrong with Zimbabwe. So if I'll give you an example of countries that have placed a lot of their culture is it revolves around artwork. Like, let me say, artwork in those nations, for example, is sort of a basic part of their culture.
Yes.
Like, take for example Japan. You have anime, you have manga, and generally you have this whole idea of their artwork being a cultural thing, and people actually read it and saying, you know what, this is Japan. If you were to watch an anime, you would tell that this is definitely Japan, and read their comics or manga, or you could just go to places like Europe, where their tourism makes a lot of money out of the art,
museums and sculptures and things like that.
Exactly. So this comes about as a result of how well these countries are doing, I guess, economically, because then they can afford to actually, make sense of the artwork.
Yeah, and I mean, you drive a very good point. It's something that's embedded in these communities, in these cultures. From a young age, vanokura vachingonzwa kunzi, this is what it is. You know what I mean? And I feel like it's
Exactly.
probably something that's lacking within our community. But
Yes.
seeing that it is lacking, do you feel like it's something that we need to incorporate in our culture? And I think when you think Zimbabwe, you don't immediately think, art uh, and things like that, and the luxury of it in that sense. But do you feel like it's something that needs to be incorporated? I know that you mentioned, Kuti, there are things that we need to sort out first within the environment, within the economy, before we even start thinking about incorporating art as, a
Mhm.
standard. But do you think art is necessary to be embedded in any kind of culture at all?
Yes, I mean, art is all around us, man. Like,
Mhm.
art is not just, it's not just the drawings that people
Yeah.
do.
Mm.
Art is the music, it's the writing, the poetry, it's
Mm.
everything, way of life.
Yeah.
I also give you an example of South Africa.
Okay.
There's some really poor communities there, but
Mhm.
they find pride in their cultures,
Yes,
and
they
the
do.
art is associated with their cultures, right? I'll
Mhm.
give you an example of, if when I say South Africa, right? Let's talk about say the Zulu, right?
Yeah.
The traditional regalia and stuff. That's artwork in itself. The patterns that are associated with their clothing. Just the whole idea that this is Africa.
Mm.
This is our culture. This. So I feel like if it's possible in Zimbabwe to have that, because if we were to go back, we have sculptures, right, that are
Yep.
sitting in some museums in England, since colonial times,
Yeah.
and that's that's part of who we used to be as a people, right? We
Mhm.
have the national birds, right? They
Mhm.
made sculptures of those things, and that was artwork that was embedded in our culture. So I feel like it's possible to
Yeah.
get to that. And yes, the practicality of it all is a bit shaky,
Yeah.
but yes, it's really possible to have a culture that appreciates artwork and the sophistication of what creatives have to offer.
Mm. No, yeah,
Mhm.
you definitely have some very interesting and valid points there, and I do agree. Art is everywhere. It's something
Yeah,
that
it's every.
it's been within us, and it's something we can't really ignore or look aside
Yes.
to, which is super
Mhm.
cool. And I think it's
Yeah,
it's only right and fair that we embrace it as much as we can, not
yeah,
ignore it.
true.
But when you look at your journey, I think, how long have you been drawing? How long have you been invested in pencils, paper?
Mm, all right. So much like everyone else, I've been drawing my whole life,
Hmm.
right? If I would put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah, but to really consider, trying to focus more on being a creative and not just taking it as a hobby or
Yeah.
just a passing gift. I'd say since 2014.
Okay.
Then I branded to Midnight Arts. That's 2016. So I would say, as a brand, or as maybe as a committed creative, I'd say
Hmm.
I've been doing for about 5 to 6 years now.
Okay.
Let's just
So
say 5.
okay, 5 to 6 years. But let's talk about that transition and that journey. It's starting off as a
Mhm,
hobby, and then it transitioning
mhm,
into something you want to do sort of full time, and then you actually deciding, you know what, I just don't want to be recognized as Alvin the drawer, but I want to separate myself from this thing, in this brand, and I'm going to call it Midnight Art. So those different stages from moving to just a hobby to someone who's committed, and then from someone who's committed to actually building and developing this brand now. What were the key
mhm.
factors that moved you from a hobby to a commitment, and from a commitment to a brand? What were the key factors that shifted you in those, two changes, shifts?
Okay, so when I started as a kid, right, it was just something I like to do.
Yeah.
But um, between when I say I started being serious about this 2014, I have a cousin, right? You know how in our communities, in our, like, say, our Zimbabwean culture, just Zimbabwean culture, really, we take our cousins are on sisters, and usually we live around the same household and stuff.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So uh, I was saying with this, she's let me call her just lady, right? I was staying with this lady since I was a kid. So
Yeah.
she used to support me. Like at some point she actually bought me paper so I could
Wow.
draw. But I was a really young kid then. This was back in primary school, right?
Crazy.
And she was doing her A levels then. And she would just encourage me to, she knew how important this was to me, despite the whole thing of, people just saying focus on your school.
Yeah, yeah,
It's,
yeah.
So over time she then met a guy. This was at a time when I was in high school now.
Yeah, yeah.
And so this guy was an artist as well. He's an engineer
Okay.
by trade, but he's also an artist,
Okay.
right? And he's a pencil artist, so he's just an illustrator, just much like myself.
Okay.
So she told me this guy always like he always wanted to meet me, but I was a boarder at the time, so I couldn't get to meet the guy. So this one time she came to visit me at school, and
Mhm.
she told me to try and take my art seriously, not just something that I do on the side.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then I was like, I'm equally good at school, so why would I do that? I mean, given the Zimbabwean state,
Yeah.
given
That's
the
very good.
Zimbabwean state, there's not much room for creatives. People
That's
don't
an
really make much.
understandable chain of thought. That's very understandable.
Yes. So she was like, no, this guy I'm going out with, he's an engineer, just because she knew I wanted to be an engineer as well.
Mm.
Okay, I am an engineer now, but okay, let me not just jump to that yet. So she knew I wanted to be an engineer ever since I was a kid. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
she was like, this guy is much like you. You he's managed to go to school and study for engineering, and at the same time he's been making money through artwork. I mean, it's not going to be easy. You're going to be have to spend more time awake than most people. You have to
Yeah.
sacrifice the rest time so that you can
Mm.
make the two things. But there's a chance for you here. And I was like, you know what, let me just give it a try.
Yeah.
So ever since then, that's when I started researching more into the different type of art kinds of things that I would like to, what would work for me. And I came across what I do now, realism, just
Mm.
trying to capture the essence and reality in whatever I do,
Mm.
right? So fast forward, I'm now trying to get better at what I'm doing, trying to find tutorials online and stuff.
Mm.
And then when was this? The, this was 2014. I was in lower six. That's when I started to do this whole thing of drawing a lot,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Like emphasis on this whole particular thing of realism.
Okay.
And after a while, I approached a friend. Initially, he's the one who had approached me, and he was like, you know what, I think you have a good thing going here, but I feel like you don't have that much exposure. So let's try and work together. And if I can get you commissions, and then you can get me commission for the commissions, if you know what I
Wow.
mean.
Yeah, I get you. I get you.
Yeah, yeah. So that's how I started working with this guy. He was just like myself, a student, someone from my stream.
Mm.
He wasn't exactly say well educated or exposed
Mm.
in the field of art, but he just had passion for entrepreneurship. I should say
Mm.
he just
Mm.
wanted
Mm.
to try and make this work. So I had to work with him, and he's actually the one who came about the name Midnight Art by AM.
Mm.
And the way it happened, he, at the time I didn't have an Instagram page that was solely dedicated to my
To
artwork,
the artwork. Okay.
right? I didn't have that. I just had my personal Instagram page where I would just post randomly and stuff. So he
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, let's create a page on Facebook and Instagram, and we start building from there. I was like, cool. So when he creates the account, he comes to me and then he tells me, now we have an account running. We decided to call it Midnight Art. And I was like, yeah, can you explain why we're calling it Midnight Art?
That's funny.
Yeah, because I didn't get the hang of it. So he was like,
Yeah.
let's take your initials, right? So my names are Alvin Takunda, right?
Okay.
That's ATM. So he was like, let's take the name that you use most. That's Alvin. Takunda is like a home name, so I don't use it much. Let's take the name that you use most. That's Alvin, and your
Mm-hmm.
surname is Mukawu. That's AM, right? I was
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah. So where are you going with this? He was like, well, AM means morning, right? I was like, yeah. What's that got to do with midnight? And he was
Oh,
like, well, the middle of the night is midnight, right? I was like, yeah, but
uh,
technically it's the beginning of morning. I was like, okay, you're
I
speaking
like it. I like it.
myself.
I've always wondered. I've always wondered where that name comes from. It's actually a question I was going to ask you to explain
Yeah, yeah,
where it came from. But now it makes so much sense, and I like it. I like it a lot.
yeah. I was like, bro, this is good. Let's go with it. So ever since then, I've actually just been using the name Midnight Art. I am, and funny thing at school when I started, because this was the very same year that I started college, right?
Mm-hmm.
I then went on to take on my engineering degree, and first year, I had my WhatsApp handle as Midnight Art,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when I got, you know how people create groups around the communities that they, for example, you have a group, you have a WhatsApp group for say people from your class and stuff.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. So the group, the people could see my WhatsApp handle as Midnight Art,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just it just stuck. So all through college, people just started calling me Midnight,
Wow.
and yeah. So that's how the brand became me, and I became the brand. So it was more than just the artwork. Now it's now sort of me driving the brand forward as well.
Mm.
So
You were sort of
yeah, so
defined by it. They associated you with this one brand, which is pretty cool.
yeah, yeah. So I was no longer Alvin doing midnight art. I was just midnight art. That's the
Mm.
whole time. Yes. So yeah, that's how I went from being, just taking art as a hobby to rebranding to taking it as a
But
as a brand.
I definitely do love that story, and you do mention that there were a couple of people in your life who had an impact and were key driving forces in ensuring that you end up where you were. Um, you do mention your
Mhm.
cousin, and you do mention this one engineer guy who you were introduced to. But
He
are there?
wasn't even an engineer. He was studying accounting at the time.
You were studying
We
accounting at the
actually
time.
hadn't, actually we actually hadn't gone to college yet. We were still waiting for our results, I think, A
Wow.
level results. Yeah, he's a friend from high school, and we've been friends ever since. And we're still working together.
Yeah. Okay. But so, aside from them, are there
Mhm.
any other people that you know directly, or some people that you look up to that pushed and sort of drove your desire to do more with art? It could have been back
Um,
then, or even currently now. Are there any people that
there
and
are actually there's a
who are
lot.
those people? I mean, we've got time. If you can,
Okay,
you
I
can
won't
list a few of them.
exactly. I won't say the whole list, but
Mhm.
starting out, I would or look at artwork that was done by there's this lady called Alina Hunter,
Okay.
and there's an Italian guy called Diogo Coy, yes,
Okay.
and then later on I found a guy named Doug Demirsky. These guys they didn't really say directly mentor me, but they're just people that inspired me. Look, I tried
Yeah.
to get as much I try to imitate sort of their style and
Hmm.
incorporate it in my work as much as
Hmm.
possible
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
guys were really good at picking out detail and conversations and
Hmm.
contrast and all that. And then this one time, 2016 in June, I went to an exhibition. This was my first time exhibiting my work.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So this was at Wild Geese Lodge. There's an art festival that they usually hold there
Hmm.
every year. So I went there and I met these two guys rather. Uh, One is called Liberty Shuro.
Okay.
He's based in Harare. So
Okay.
he's based in Gweli. That's where he lives. And the other is called Humphrey Shimombo.
Okay.
So these guys were round about my age, but slightly older,
Mhm.
right? So they were like, you know what, we're probably the youngsters here. And we were the newbies. I mean, this was actually a new scene for us.
For all of you,
This
yeah.
was Yes, we were just basically it was the first time exhibiting, and there was just so much to take in. And from there we just exchanged numbers, and I joined this whole community of artists that I didn't even know existed at
Wow.
the time. So they introduced me to just a whole new dimension of Zimbabwean artists,
Mm.
artists that I didn't know. And ever since then, it's been great in the sense that I've met a lot of people that have helped me grow as an artist from that community. And there's this guy, he's called Shanfield Michael Moyo. He's
Mhm.
actually one of the best right now at what he does, and you might have to check his Instagram art. And
Definitely,
trust me,
definitely.
he he helped me a lot. Considering that we were pretty much the same age, and he was doing these mind-blowing drawings, and I was like, bro,
Mm.
you need to teach me how we do this. So
Mm.
he did teach me, but mostly he inspired me, man. Just seeing what he did made me want
Yeah,
to do more, man.
yeah.
So yeah, so it's really been that's just the people that have encouraged me from an art space. But
Mm.
just looking at just all things considered, my parents have also supported me. My mom
Wow.
would tell me never to sleep without completing my drawings. There are times when I would have say I'd be working at a drawing, and then maybe I'd lose interest,
Mm.
and I'll just start slacking, and she's like, no, we don't do that
We
here.
don't do that, yeah.
Just get back to work, my
I
guy. Just
love
make
that.
it work. You know. And my dad, we haven't always seen eye to eye over this, but he's been really supportive as well. And it's really been beautiful working with this guy.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really been.
That's inspiring. That's very inspiring. It's very encouraging as well to know the power that arts can have. But you mentioned so many very, very important things, and unfortunately, I can't pick on all of them because of time. But you
All right.
mentioned something about looking at some of these artists, Lina Hunter and Diego Coy, and trying to emulate their style of work as best as you can, and pick points that can inspire your work. But how difficult is it now for you to look at their work and not just become another photocopy of them, to see their work and be inspired by it and then create your own kind of style from that? Because I know for a fact, being a content creator, it's very easy for me to see something that someone has done in terms of a photo shoot, in terms of photo concepts, and try and
Mhm,
replicate it to the T. Now I'm not
mhm.
being a creative person myself. I'm just looking at what other people have done and replicating that,
You're
becoming
imitating.
becoming a photocopy.
Mhm.
So how difficult is it to be inspired by someone but not to become someone for you?
Oh
Or
well.
you don't struggle with that at all?
Actually, I kind of struggle with it.
Mm.
The difficult thing is trying to make yourself unique, because then if they teach you their techniques, then your work is probably going to look like this. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So over the years, then I decided to just try and experiment with a lot of things.
Yeah.
I went from wildlife, went back to portraits. I've tried color. I even went back to charcoal as well. At first, I started using. When I started working, I was using graphite.
Okay.
Then I started using charcoal, and so I came to a point where I asked myself, what's separating me from these other guys?
Wow, that's a good question to ask. That's a very good question to ask.
Yes, and it's not exactly an easy one to answer as well,
Mm.
because you find that um, most of the times I was just doing portraits, right?
Okay.
Even up to date, I've mostly just been doing portraits. But
Yes, sir.
my first step, I would say, was to, I think I would just say, the one time that I clearly told myself I need to start to do my own thing was just, I'd say, maybe end of last year. So pretty much this one time I've just been a photographer. I'm blunt,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
then I've just been creating artwork that's just based on what I see. If I'm drawing a portrait of a person, then it's basically that person and there's nothing more.
Mm-hmm.
But as of late, I've had to just sit down and try to come up with these subtle little things that can
Make a
try
difference.
and exactly. So the first step was to try and abandon, the idea of just using one medium, but try and combine mediums. Try to combine the charcoal and the pastel that I use for color, and I'm working on creating my own different thing. I'm not quite there yet,
Mm-hmm.
but I am strongly about this. I was having a hard time finding a niche or something that I say that was
Yeah.
solely my own.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but moving forward, I see myself, just deviating from that, just working towards my own thing. Right now, I'm working on a commissioned portrait, and I've already started, experimenting with different things and just combining these mediums. And I feel like I have an exciting future just looking at it that way now.
Yeah, I mean,
So
you're
hopefully, it will start making sense soon. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you keep mentioning such key concepts, such key ideas, and challenging my brain to think harder. And I mean, you mentioned the ability to build your own kind of style and asking yourself, what makes me different? It's not something that we actually stop to think about sometimes because we live in such a fast-paced world where content is being
Mhm.
pushed out so fast. I mean, it's very easy to post something on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, and like people are just constantly dropping out every single thing they're doing and keeping people up to date with your work. And for yourself, it's like flip. So and so drew a picture, or so and so took such a photo. I need to do it, and I need to do it now. But you don't stop to think, how can I be different? And I think when it comes to creativity and art, I could be wrong about this, and a lot of people could argue it, but I think quality is better than quantity for sure. Being able to
Definitely.
pace yourself,
Definitely.
ask yourself, okay, so how can I make myself different? How can I make myself stand out? So I
Mhm.
like that. And you're definitely challenging me in that respect. I'm telling you, you're definitely
Yeah.
challenging me in that respect to be able to uh, do something differently. What is it that they aren't doing that I can do? Or how is it that I can make something that's completely recognizable by what my art
Mhm.
is and who I am? So I love that and I respect that so much. And I can only hope that you are able to continue to find yourself and find your identity within the art as well and create that unique style that everybody kind of
Mhm.
longs for. So I wish you all the best with that.
All right.
Um,
Yeah. Thank
yeah, but you also mentioned something that was very humbling in that you met this artist and this guy was, I'm forgetting his name, but you said he was about your age at the time, but was doing these amazing pieces, and you couldn't help
you.
but ask him, teach me how you do that. And I mean, it's a very big thing of you to be able to humble yourselves and bring yourself down to a level where you ask, please teach me. Was that an easy thing to do? And do you feel like, as creatives, as general human beings, it's something we all need to learn to do more? Where you don't know, just ask. And I think there's a lot of pride in the current community we live in where it's like, I can do it by myself. That type of attitude. You can just
Mhm.
like I don't need help. People really, yeah, people really feel like
Yeah. I can
ndikabvunza, I
imagine.
look like handizii kana kuti ndakapusa. But I think it's very important for us to be able to humble ourselves and bring ourselves to a position where we're like, okay, I see how good you are and I want to be like you. Please teach me. Was it something that was easy for you to do, or it's something you had to sum up courage to do as well?
All right. So uh let's just say I haven't always been, able to accept that someone is better than me. Even back
Yeah.
in high,
Mm.
I've always wanted to be, let's just say let's just take this way back to primary
Way
school.
back to primary school. I
I've always
love
wanted to
it.
be the best. I always wanted to be the best, but then you
Mm.
have to face the reality that you're not always the best.
Mm.
There's always someone who's going to be better than you. Like I
That's
said, I
true.
was good at school. I was good at school, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
was never the first student. I was never, that number one student. There was
Mm.
always someone who was better at every point. I went to a boarding school, right? In primary school, grade
Mm.
4, 5. I was never the best. The
Mm.
one time I actually managed to, go above everyone else. The one time I was the best. This was, I think, end of grade 5, right? 5th grade.
Mhm.
I came first, overly the entire stream. And you know what? The most annoying thing after that was, I thought I was going to maintain this. Guess what happened? A new student came, and
And
she
you wrecked.
was better than me, like everything, man. Like, she was good at math, she was good at compositions and English, she was good
Wow.
at all that, everything. So I, I guess even when I went to secondary school, right?
Mm.
I went to a really competitive school where I was nothing, man. Like I came from a school where I was one of the best. I was the second best student, right? But when I
Mm.
went to high school, I was nothing. I was a nobody. You understand what I'm
Mm.
saying? Like the topic was that much. So I guess it kind of opened up my eyes to
Mm.
realize that you'll never be the best. There's always someone who's got more talent than you, someone who is maybe he's more relentless than you are. He works
Mm.
harder than you. He's got whatever, he's gonna do whatever it takes. And even if you feel like you are good, there's always that one chance that there's always a chance that one person can easily surpass you. So I had to, I just had to put down the pride and accept this
Yeah.
talent. And even seeing his work and comparing it to mine, he was like that. Because like I said, I started taking this seriously in 2014,
Mhm.
and he had been doing it since 2011. He had 3 years experience that I didn't have.
Yeah.
So he was
Yeah.
already miles ahead. So
Mm.
I realized there's no way that I'm going to catch up to his level of perseverance and patience, skill, all that. And I was like, you
Mm.
know what, guy, you're really good at what you do.
Help
Why
me
don't you
out.
just help me out, show me some things, just
Mm.
something to put me up to pace. And he actually was really humble about it. I'm still surprised with the way, even up to date, he's been helping other guys. He even, I mean, he opened up my eyes to a lot of things. But yeah, to focus on the artwork, let's just say he was very welcoming in his approach, and he was not even proud about it. He was not boastful in his being a better artist than I was. He was just
Mm.
he would just tell me whatever he knew, and he never held anything back. So yeah, I really appreciate that. I
Yeah,
really
it's
appreciate that.
it's 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 a really humbling space to be in. And
Mhm.
you mentioned it again, to put down your pride. I would have never thought, after hearing, I would have never thought you were this competitive and hungry to be the best. But I think God has an interesting way of humbling us at times. Like you're saying, you find yourself in a place where you come first overall in the stream, and then someone just pops into your school and they wreck everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of life, I guess. And I think it's those kind of situation experiences that help us know, Kuti, you know what, I may be good at something. There's always someone out there who can do it better. And being
Yes,
able
there's
to
always someone
humble
out there.
yourself and say, I'm willing to learn. Even though I've acquired all these things and I've learned all these things, I am willing to learn. If there's anyone out there who can teach me, I'm here to learn. So I
Mhm.
love that mentality about you. And I hope that you can uphold that and a lot of people can learn from you as well, which is super cool. But if you had an opportunity to go back to when you started, way back when you really thought about taking this art thing to the next level, uh, if you could go back and speak to the younger version of yourself and say, "Hey, Alvin, I've experienced and I know what it is. 5, 6, 7 years from now, I know how this creative thing goes. Here's a piece of advice. What advice would you give yourself before deciding? Could you know what I want to do this art thing?"
Okay. I think I would tell myself to focus on myself. Um,
Mm.
Let me put it this way. When I said I I had a moment where I had to introspect and ask myself what made me different, what made me stand out.
Hmm.
Mhm. So at the time, I didn't realize it. I was just bound. My whole mind was just bound on this thing of trying to recreate a photo as much as possible. In my
Mm.
mind, I think this was kind of influenced by the community that I was in.
Hmm.
My level of creativity was judged by how much I was able to recreate a photo on paper.
Mm.
Right? But having spent all these years doing that, and just doing the same thing over and over and over, it has made me realize that there's more to art than just redrawing what you're saying.
Yep.
Art is all about expression, man.
Yes,
It's not just
sir. Yeah.
recreating someone else's work. It's about finding yourself and work on expressing yourself.
Okay.
This whole thing of this whole thing of creating the most detailed work you can, it's not bad. It's possible. You can still do that while expressing yourself. So I would tell myself to change my mentality and I guess
Focus
that I
on
would
yourself.
try focus on expressing myself, focus on telling my story, not just trying to recreate, but to create something of my own.
Yeah, that's deep. Don't just recreate, but create something. And I love that quote. I'm gonna steal it. But yeah, I mean, it's been super lovely getting to hear, some of your backstory stuff and getting to pick your brain about this creative thing. But you did mention that you studied engineering, and you did start studying engineering and simultaneously trying to set up this art thing on the side. My question is, how were you able to strike a balance and give engineering the time it deserves and art the time it deserves? And it's no secret that an engineering degree at whatever level is very, very demanding. So how were you able to, find a balance and give each one of them the time they deserve and the time that they need for them to both be a success?
Yeah, the truth is I never managed to find
I ask this question to each and every one of my people that I sit down with, and no one has ever been like, I found the balance. Everyone's like, I can't, it's impossible. But how do you work through that? How do you work through that?
Because considering the people that I started doing art with, like my colleagues, I told you about the guys that I met at Wild Geese Art Festival. Right?
Yes.
Comparing the progress that those guys have made and the progress that I've made, I would say my progress was stunted and retarded if I were to use it, because I was moving at a much slower pace than everyone else. But doing art full time, and I have to worry about submitting assignments. I have to worry about attending lectures and stuff. So I wouldn't say I managed to make them coexist.
Yeah.
But the beauty of studying engineering is that you don't get to study during the holidays, right? Yeah, so it's different from medicine. With medicine, you have to study at school, and when schools close, you have to study at home as well.
Okay.
Yeah, but with engineering, once your course is done, that's it. You're going on to a new course that's
on to the next. Yes.
So I would take the time during the vacations to try and work on my artwork. I guess that's how I did it. And I feel like most of my improvement was based off of my colleagues and competition. Like I would go a while without drawing, and when I would draw again, my work would be far much better than it was the last time I did. And not because I'd made progress, because I wouldn't have made any progress drawing, but I would have observed other people's work and I would be trying to try to get to that level. So each time I have that motivation to push myself, but I feel like that's how it always worked for me. But I would say I really I got time to work on my artwork more after after my final exams. This was I think July last year.
Yeah.
I would say between July last year and now, I've worked more on my artwork than I've ever done.
Wow.
In the same period of time at any point in my life.
That's crazy.
Because now I have more time. Obviously I've created more artworks than I've created more artworks in the past than now, but I make more progress now than I did back then. It's within that period that I managed to challenge myself to try and create provocative art, things that would be as expressive as possible. I actually it was then that I did. I think the first piece that I did that was, say, controversial was I did a piece for Hopo Jimono.
Okay.
Yeah, the journalist.
Yes, I remember.
Yes. So I'm sure you will you'll be able to put sort of like a slideshow on this whole podcast.
I'll try.
It's amongst the pictures that I've sent you. So it's a map of Zimbabwe that's sort of around his face, and his eyes don't have. Let's just say he doesn't have eyes. Like his eyes have no sight whatsoever, and his mouth is sewn together. So
Wow.
that to me was a turning point in that I managed to say something without having to say it out loud. So
Wow. Yes,
all this
sir.
happened. All this happened while I was at home after my exam. So I've made progress as a creative artist now than I had done before. So the idea that I don't have to study now, it frees my mind and it gives me more time to my thoughts. So I guess that's something I'm saying.
Must be beautiful. It makes me a little bit anxious and excited to finish studying as well and have more time. I
It
definitely have more
is.
time. Yeah, I
It
mean,
is. Yeah.
you did mention that engineering is something you love, something you've been passionate about since you were a young person.
Uh-huh.
So now, how do these two things that define you as a human being, even growing up and up until now, interact in your life moving forward? Is engineering something that you want to do for the long term, or it's more for art thing, or you want to do both side by side for as long as you can? What's the plan for engineering and art in your life? Do they both have a place in your life, or you're looking to put one aside for some time and then pursue one full time? I don't know. How does it work? What's the plan?
All right. So here is my end, like my end game, right?
Okay.
Art is a game of creation,
Yes, sir.
right? Engineering is a game of creation, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So my idea is not to be sort of a working engineer or an employee. I want to try and create using the knowledge that I have. Obviously now I'm working as I am an employee.
Yes.
It's just a stage that I have to go through, but this is not where when I in quotes what I'm destined to do.
Okay.
I actually remember I have a lecturer who used to say engineers in quotes are gods in that we bring life to things, right? So that's something I wanted to do. So I'm not going to abandon my engineering or have to give up my artwork. I am actually equally going to just be working with both of them, just seeing where it will take me. But yeah, I'm obviously going to continue creating my artwork, and I'm going to be creating through my engineering as well.
I love that. I love that so much. And very right in that they're both a creative game. And I'm glad that you found something that you're genuinely passionate about, that something that genuinely fulfills you as well. But yeah, I mean, we've definitely come towards the end of the sit down and this conversation, which I've loved so much. I've definitely enjoyed it. And it's kind of unfortunate that we can't have it recorded video. Maybe one day we can meet, chat again, record some stuff, or even work together on some artistic stuff, which I'd really appreciate. But I do only have one more question for you, and that's, what do you enjoy most about the creative space you're in? What do you enjoy most about drawing? When you think about drawing and why you do it every time, what's that one thing that you're always like, this is the reason why?
There's always this gratification that comes from completing a piece. I don't know. I enjoy the process, right?
Yes, sir.
The process of coming up with an art. But it's always this sense of fulfillment I get when I complete an artwork and it looks far much better. Usually it comes out far much better than I would have anticipated, because most of the times I'm like, will I be able to pull this off?
Yeah.
What you imagine and what comes out of paper are not usually the same. Right? But there's always this gratification that comes with it. And for me, artwork is just much more than just getting this gratification that I've created. These exhibitions they've been great in that I get to socialize with a lot of people, connect, meet a lot of different characters, and just it's a whole different uh it's a whole different world out there. And because creatives and art collectors all the same, and it's really been fulfilling for me. So yeah, it's really been fulfilling for me.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
I
you can't.
guess
What you with?
mhm, what I would say, the one thing that I really enjoy the most would be, yeah, just the gratification that I've created something. But there's more to it than just that gratification. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. Sometimes you really can't put a price tag or a word or just one particular feeling on how creating something makes you feel, or the kind of feeling it is like. So I get what you mean. There's definitely some sort of gratification that comes from it. Some sort of feeling that you really can't put a pin on exactly on what it is. But I know for a fact that it's a positive feeling. I know it's a good feeling, and it's a
Mhm.
feeling that I want to experience and feel over and over again. That's why I wake up every day and reach out to people.
Mhm.
That's why I wake up every day and grab my camera and go out and shoot. It's because of that feeling. So I definitely understand what you mean, and I can only hope, like I said before, that you continue to grow, you continue to find yourself, and build that uniqueness that you're so known for. Um, but I'm excited for Midnight Arts. I'm excited for what they've been doing, what they're continuing to do, and what they hope to do. And I hope only to see you guys grow. And I hope we can continue communicating and being in touch, and helping each other grow as well. So just thank you so
Mhm.
much for being here, bro. Alvin. I really do appreciate it, dude. I've learned so much from you, and I hope that a lot of people can learn as well from your great, great mind.
Mm. Thank you very much for having me, for
It's
hearing what I had to say.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah,
absolute pleasure. It's really an absolute
yeah.
pleasure.
I hope to come back and do this again after. I told you that I'm working on a niche, right?
Mm-hmm.
On so I hope to come back and just talk about that after I've completed this
Yeah,
whole process.
dude. That would be nice. I always look forward to see the people I've had on the show grow, and then bring them back. When they're 50,000, 100,000 subscribers and followers in their journey. And I'm like, remember when we talked about it and you only had like 4,000 followers? How much you've grown.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
definitely looking forward to interact with you again, bring you back on the show, um, and see what we can talk about then.
yeah. Thank you very much for having me, man. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. I appreciate it.